Jim Goldstein, if you can hear me, show your video so we can see.
I'm just doing audio, Mark, because I want to be able to look at the resolutions, and I haven't figured out how to do both.
I can hear Jim talking.
Okay.
Jim, try showing your video if you can, so you'll show up.
You want me to? You want me to see if my video is working? Is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay, hang on one sec. All right. Okay.
We're ready. Well, she wants to see who's on here first, so it's Bono's here. Yeah, who's over there?
Okay, first we're going to start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Okay, first we have roll call, please.
Corbin, Zupan, Lawrence, Moses, Jones,
Here.
Walrod, Schwartz, Goldstein,
Here.
DeVeronica, Norelli, Bono, Cunningham, Stokes,
Here.
Stepanski is absent. Becker,
Here.
Kavanaugh, Roberts, Maglioka, Ostrander. Is he on, John?
Joe's on.
Joe's on, he's muted.
Joe. Yeah, Joe's muted.
Okay.
Joe on mute.
And we don't have Evan?
Nope.
You haven't seen her on Zoom?
Nope.
No, she's supposed to be in person. So.
Okay.
Okay. 1,369.
Okay. Need a motion for the approval of our previous meeting minutes, please. Motion by Mr. Walrod, seconded by Mrs. Norelli. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have communications reports, reports of committees, unfinished business.
Reports, Madison County analysis of sales tax receipts, February through July 2020. Audit of vouchers payable and approved at today's meeting submitted by Finance Director totaling $1,906,745.74.
That's it. Okay. All right. First thing up, we're going to have Ron Raymer come bring up. Of course, this is the year of our veteran that we set out to have something with veterans every meeting. And it's been disrupted like everything else that we've been trying to do. But today we have the Honor Flight group today. We're pleased to have two representatives from Honor Flight here with us today to talk about the Honor Flight program and the importance of getting the word out to our veterans about Honor Flight. We're joined by Orrin McMurray, or Mac as he's better known. Mac is a member of the Honor Flight Syracuse Board. Mac is a retired military officer. Mac is also a licensed professional engineer and chairman emeritus of the CNS companies of Syracuse. Mac lives in North Bay. In addition, we're joined by Brian Dixon. Brian's also a member of the Honor Flight Board. He chairs the Outreach Committee. Brian is recently retired U.S. Army Colonel. Brian has worked for the Mystic Stamp Company in Camden for over 20 years. Brian also lives in Rossville. So thank you for your service, gentlemen, and come on up here. So.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for giving us an opportunity. Can you hear me? Am I speaking up with the mask here? Well, we really, truly appreciate and excuse my back.
No, you're fine.
We really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you today a little bit about Honor Flight and the importance of getting the word out to our veterans about the opportunity that it affords them. With me here today, as already was mentioned, Brian Dixon is here. Both of us kind of hail from a little bit north of the county. Sorry about that, but Madison County is home as well to us. As many of you are well aware, World War II ended in 1945, but it wasn't until 2004 that the United States honored the veterans that served in World War II with a memorial in Washington, D.C. A group of people nationally at that point in time decided or came to the conclusion that, the World War II generation is getting up there in age. And in 2004, they concluded that, there's an awful lot of World War II veterans that are not going to have an opportunity. They're not going to be able to afford, they're not going to be physically in a position to travel to Washington to see the World War II memorial. So these folks got together and they created an organization nationally referred to or called Honor Flight. Honor Flight is made up of a little over 100 what are called hubs. And these hubs are really something like a chapter, for the lack of a better word. And we have one of those in central New York, which covers the central New York area, the Mohawk Valley, and the North Country. And that's referred to as Honor Flight Syracuse. Both Brian and I are on the board of directors of Honor Flight Syracuse and are deeply involved in the organization. Our goal, quite simply, is to make sure that every veteran understands that they have an opportunity to travel at no charge to see their memorials in Washington, D.C. Over the years, it has expanded far beyond World War II veterans, such that now veterans of many, many conflicts are being served. And Brian will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So Honor Flight is an important organization, but it's an even more important opportunity. And we want to make sure that the people understand that. Unfortunately, we normally fly 2 missions a year, one in the spring and one in the fall, carry somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 90 veterans on each mission. But with us wearing these masks this year, you can understand that those missions have been canceled. Our next mission is scheduled for next April, and good Lord willing, and we can deal with the COVID situation by then. We'll be taking another trip and taking another group to Washington then. I want to ask Brian if he'd take a few minutes and maybe give you a little more insight into what an Honor Flight mission is really all about and how they work. Brian?
Thanks, Matt. Our Honor Flight chapter covers a 10-county area, and this is really one of the things that we pride ourselves on. Madison County is a large portion of that. And in Madison County alone, we can service up to hundreds, if not thousands, of potential veterans that could participate in an honor flight. Since around 2012, the outreach team, which is part of the Honor Flight Syracuse, in conjunction with our Speakers Bureau, we've been working to get the word out about Honor Flight Syracuse. And so really before I begin today and talk a little bit about what Honor Flight Syracuse is all about, just by a show of hands, how many people here know of a veteran, have a veteran family member, or know of somebody close to them, or maybe even is a veteran? So you look at that. You guys are a perfect audience to help us here at Honor Flight Syracuse get the word out. So thank you for that. Our outreach motto asserts, let no veteran miss the opportunity because they didn't know. And so that's why we come to groups such as yourself here to make sure we're getting that word out and we're passing on what Honor Flight Syracuse is all about. In a nutshell, Honor Flight Syracuse, and Max said this a little bit, was formed to transport veterans to Washington, D.C. at no cost to the veteran so that they can visit the memorials that honor their sacrifice. I'll give you a few Honor Flight Syracuse facts. First off, Honor Flight Syracuse has transported over 950 veterans since 2012. In our next mission, which we've had 14 of those missions so far, we're going to ultimately end up transporting our 1,000th veteran for this central New York area. So that's really one of those things that we pride ourselves on, is making sure the word gets out and making sure veterans have an opportunity to know that this opportunity exists. Veterans travel for free, and they have the opportunity to bring in a guardian with them to escort. Also, thanks to our partnership with Lemoyne College and the nursing department there at Lemoyne College, we work with the veterans to make sure we understand their health needs. Because every veteran, many of our veterans are up there in age, and veterans worry, geez, am I healthy enough to go there? And so we work with the veterans through our nurses of Lemoyne College to help them better understand that, that there's really is an opportunity. And we try our best. Our bias is to make sure all veterans can make it down there to the, on an honor flight. We also can assist disabled veterans. If veterans are wheelchair bound, or if they have specific health needs such as oxygen and things of that nature, we can work through each of those. We can bring oxygen on the aircraft. We give all the veterans, we make sure each veteran has a wheelchair, whether it's needed or not. We go through a few extra steps to make sure that the veterans have as much of a safe and healthy opportunity with each of the flights. And in terms of the guardians themselves as well, this also presents an opportunity for the veteran to bring a guardian with them, because we found that many times a guardian will go with a grandson or a granddaughter, child, a daughter or a son. It gives an opportunity for them to maybe share some of those experiences that they otherwise might not have shared. So that ends up being oftentimes a great experience, and we hear through testimonies of our veterans who have gone on our various missions that this is a powerful experience for them. So real quick, a little bit of logistics for the day. So if a veteran decides that they want to go on and they want to make their way through to an honor flight, we then have them come and meet at the Syracuse International Airport. They arrive early. We do this all in one day. So they come there, they arrive early, it's curbside drop off, and we have them ushered in. There's no mess, no fuss. We get them in, we get them onto a chartered aircraft, and then we bring them down to Washington, D.C., where we ultimately find a way to transport them via a motor coach, another chartered motor coach, to the various memorials that we have down there. And so there's a bunch of different memorials themselves. Obviously, as you all know, we've been and visited the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, the Vietnam Veteran Memorial, and so on. So along the way, we keep our veterans engaged. I apologize for this mask, it's falling down. We keep the veterans engaged and well-fed along the way, and we try the best to give them a powerful experience for them as they head down to visit their memorials and make their way back to Syracuse. In terms of eligibility, sometimes we get the question, do I have to have combat experience? There's no combat experience required for this. Actually, our eligibility is on our website on the applications. So if we encourage folks to go to honorflightsyracuse.org, look at the application, and then they can see what the eligibility is. But it's, again, those that I've talked about and several more in terms of conflicts. The dates of eligibility are listed on the application, as I said, and they're found right on that website. Now, if you have a few more minutes, we have the opportunity to bring up a video which will kind of show you a little bit of a snippet of what Honor Flight Syracuse is all about. We have some of our folks and our folks that sponsor Honor Flight Syracuse have helped bring these videos to life. And so we'll just show you like maybe 50 seconds to a minute, minute and a half, just to get a flavor for what Honor Flight Syracuse is all about. And then I'll hand it off back to Matt.
That's at the World War II Memorial.
Give all the veterans a red t-shirt, and the Guardians have the yellow t-shirt, and they match up. Makes it easier as you're down in Washington, D.C., visiting these memorials too. We
I was an electrician's mate. Unfortunately, when I went aboard the ship, the engineering officer says, I don't need any more electricians. I need somebody to run my evaporator. I said, that's not me. Yeah, it's you. And I said, I don't know an evaporator from a transistor. He says, well, I'll show you. So they showed me how to run the evaporator.
All right, so that goes on longer. If you ever want to see some of these mission videos, they're all on YouTube. Just Google Honor Flight Syracuse mission 1 through 14, because we've had all those missions at this point, and you'll get an opportunity to see a little bit more information there. So I'm going to pass it back to Mac. Thank you.
Yeah, really quickly, we'll wrap this up. There is another opportunity to honor veterans as well, in addition to the actual trip. It's called the Flags of Our Heroes program. Honor Flight, on each flight back and forth to Washington, we solicit applications from families that have a veteran that's already passed away, but that they would like to honor by commemorating their service through this program. So what the family will do is provide us with a picture of the veteran, hopefully something in uniform. We take that picture down to Washington on the honor flight. We set it on an easel along with the flag in an appropriate display at whatever memorial is most applicable to the service of that veteran. Photograph is taken. We then make, and this is at no cost again to the family. We make a presentation out of that, i.e. a plaque, a presentation with a photograph and whatnot in it. And then at an appropriate ceremony back here in the area, it may be at an American Legion, it could be in front of the legislature or the Board of Supervisors, wherever it might be, at an appropriate ceremony, these are presented to the families upon return from one of the missions. The information is available on the website about this program as well. What our ask of you is today is that you'll see at each of your places, and for those that are zooming in, there's information here for you. We've provided a poster for your use, as well as a plastic holder with a series of trifold brochures on the Honor Flight program that talks in general about the things that we've discussed with you here in the last few minutes. Also, there are a couple of application forms in there just to show you what the application entails. We would ask that you take these back to your towns. If there's an appropriate place in the town where you could display this poster and where you could potentially have these trifolds available to the public, we would very much appreciate that. Maybe in the town clerk's office, maybe you have an area in the town hall where people can pick up information on different programs. We'd really appreciate it if you would help us again get the word out. As Brian said, our goal is that no veteran miss out on an opportunity to apply to participate in this program simply because nobody ever told them about it. That would be totally unfair to them. And so we ask for your help in that regard. We'd be happy to answer any questions, but again, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your patience with us and for allowing us the opportunity to come and speak with you today. Honor Flight is an all-volunteer organization. There's not one paid staffer involved in Honor Flight Syracuse. And all of the money is raised primarily from sponsors, really. You saw SRC up there, Lockheed Martin, another major sponsor. There are a lot of people that contribute the funds, and there are a lot of individual donors as well. But it's all supported by our community for our veterans. So thank you. If there's any questions.
Ron, do you got anything you want to say today?
Thank you guys for coming out
Yep.
here.
Thank you. This is, as everybody knows, veterans are near and dear to all of our hearts. We honor all of them here in Madison County. We try to do all we can, and this is one of the groups that it's all about. And we want to thank you for your service to our country and your service to this great organization. It truly is a great organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have our resolutions.
Okay, resolution number 1, resolution of appreciation retiree recognition. Mary Kavanaugh, Chairwoman, Government Operations Committee.
Resolution has been made. Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Walrod. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, first retiree we have is David Sylvester from the Highway Department of 41 years. Dave is on Zoom, and Joe is on Zoom. He's in San Francisco. I don't know how he got there. In the hour ago that I seen him, but he's all looks tan and the wind is wisping in his hair there. So Joe, go ahead.
All right, thank you, John. I just wanted to say a few things about Dave. Dave was the most senior employee in the highway department when he retired. He worked as a sign fabricator. He has 41 plus years of experience in the highway department. Dave was often referred to as a department within the highway department because of all the work that he did. Installing signs, removing signs, creating new signs, tracking inventory, basically anything related to signs, all along the 430 plus miles of county road. A lot of Dave's time was spent putting up temporary signs for our road and our bridge projects. One time we tried to estimate how many signs Dave actually handled in a year. Unfortunately, Dave's the only one that had a good handle on that number, so we were only estimated in the thousands, but it was in the thousands, we figure. And a lot of that work is hard work. He's bolting signs, driving in posts. Dave was extremely dedicated, loyal, and very proficient at his work. It's hard to imagine anybody really doing a better job. And for everyone in the highway department, we'll miss him, and we wish him the best as he moves on to the next chapter of his life.
Yes. Dave, you got anything you want to say?
Thank you very much. I don't think I deserve all that praise, but thank you.
I think you
Does.
deserve that for
He does.
all the hard work you did for the county and the highway department. We're certainly going to miss you, and we appreciate all your dedicated service very much. So thanks
My
again.
wife will keep me more than busy.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Joe. Thank all of you.
You. Okay, next, I'm going to ask Mike Fitzgerald to come up. We've got Melissa Main, who's been at social services for 33 years.
Yeah.
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 I think,
You got
yeah,
a call from the other room?
I think Emily's getting her.
Okay.
Oh, Emily went to get her.
There you go. I'm not allowed to shake anybody's hands or anything,
There
so
she
I got in trouble. So.
Yeah, this is gonna be a tough one to get through without hugs, so, we'll try to see what we can do.
Congratulations, Melissa.
So Minnie's been with the social services for 33 years. I've known her for my 28 plus years. We both were child protection resources that went together. So our time goes way back. She was actually my first hire when I became commissioner 16 years ago, but she was my first hire as a manager, deputy commissioner overseeing child family services. So she was overseeing child protection services, foster care, adoption, preventive services, independent living. We added adult services at some point, and all the Medicaid home care programs that came with them. And so no matter what we gave Missy, she picked it up, and you know, her dedication to the department, certainly this county, is without reproach, and I'm going to miss her a lot. I know we look forward to this day for a long time, but you know, she's not only a worker, she's one of my best friends. So good miss you, Missy. You're welcome.
The administration and management here at Madison County, but particularly the families of Madison County, who have allowed me to serve them for the last 33 years. And I've had an opportunity to work with some great people, coworkers, colleagues, and families, and it's been great. It's been easy. Sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's been a little emotional. That's very good. And but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Missy.
We have Leanne. Somebody got to get Leanne. Yep. Next, we have Leanne Andre from Social Services. She has 28 years. hit the button, did it? No, it didn't.
As Leanne's making her way up here, this is also a tough. Leanne started for the county just after I began, 28 years ago, 28 plus years ago, and so we kind of grew up together in social services. We've been together for all those years. Leanne was an examiner, and then went to child support, and then employment, and and then became one of our supervisors, and probably, I always say this, one of the toughest units in the whole department. She oversaw the folks who answer our phones and tuck our folks in at the front door. So that was Leanne's responsibility, in addition to running the heat program all winter. And so, one of those jobs that, really, really tough to replace. And Leanne's a veteran, much like me, in the Army. And so I always had that connection with her. Her son was a Marine. We don't hold that against him. So that's all good. So Leanne's been retired for a couple weeks, and I just asked her, how's retirement going? And if you could take the mask off, you'd see the smile. She's doing well, and congratulations, Leanne. Well-deserved retirement.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, we also, who's not here with us today is Barb Carrier. She retired from solid waste with 30 years. Who's here from the Sheriff's Department to present? RJ? Okay, we have Shannon Augustine from the Sheriff's Department, who retired with 19 years. She's not here today. Brad Bowe should be here, I believe. Let's send Brad in. Brad is retiring with 22 years.
So Brad Bowe is leaving us after 22 years plus time with the sheriff's office. As we all know, when we meet people with this much time on, they take away a lot of experience with them, a lot of knowledge. It's just very difficult to replace. And Brad certainly does that. He's retired as a lieutenant. He ran our investigations bureau, burglaries, robberies, all that good stuff and fun stuff that takes hours and hours away from our sleep at night, and days and weekends and things like that. So he's run that. He's keep the databases and things like that need to keep our office running. We're only on that. It's just one of those things that, you take it with you. It's time for you to go. We appreciate the service that you've provided us while you've been here. Wish you the very best and everything you do in the years to come. And wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Okay, we also have Diane Masker, who's retired from the Sheriff's Department after 15 years. And we have Thomas Drury, who's retiring from the Sheriff's Department after 10 years. I think Thomas is here.
Are we doing all right? Okay. A lot of you guys may recognize him just by looking at him, because if anybody has ever looked up in the dictionary what an ideal employee is, you saw his picture there. Tom has been with us for 10, 12 years, I think almost 12 years. He's just one of these guys that is irreplaceable. He's work on time, early, smile on his face, kind words to say. Does his job, makes sure others can do theirs, helps out where he's needed, goes the extra mile. He sat and worked extra on our tactical team. Comes out of corrections and actually worked with our tactical team. And in doing so, made them a much better and much stronger team. Like I said before, it's one of these things that he takes the maturity away when he leaves us. Can't replace it. But we can't keep you if you don't want to stay, as much as we tried. So what we do is we thank you for your service and the time you were here. We certainly hope that the lessons you taught some of these younger people are going to carry on for many, many years. And we wish you nothing but the best in the future. You're welcome.
It's only been 10 years, sometimes it seems longer. I truly did cherish working on the SWAT team. I hold that close to my heart every day. I miss the people I've worked with.
Congratulations. Okay, also retiring was Margaret Brody from Emergency Management with 20 years. And we have Kevin Orr from the County Clerk's Office with 15 years. So we want to congratulate those folks. With that, there is a combined 233 years of service that is leaving Madison County this month for retirement. So we want to wish all of them a great retirement and congratulations. With that, I have one thing that I had to start out with, which I forgot. I told Eric I was going to wear it. Now, at one of the press conferences that we had for COVID-19, and I said there was no playbook for this whole thing. Eric's department, along with everybody else, all of our departments have done a great job, a phenomenal job. They've gone on and above, working 24/7, 7 days a week. And one of the reporters was giving me a little bit of a hard time, and I said, there's no playbook for this thing. Madison County's used to doing, our public health department's used to doing mosquitoes in restaurants in the summertime, which is basically kind of what we do. That's the forefront, but I was quickly reminded that that's not all that they do. So it's kind of been a running joke. And so the folks over the public health department got me this nice t-shirt that the Madison County Health Department, we do mosquitoes and a lot more. So, yep. So I want to thank Eric and everybody over for that. We do realize that you do so much more. They do children with special health care needs, early intervention, child find, education, transportation of the handicapped children, community health assessment, community health improvement plans, public health preparedness, radon, childhood lead poison, water supply protections, sewage disposal, subdivisions, regulatory inspections, food protection, community sanitation, temporary residences, campgrounds, children's camps, rabies, vector control, swimming pools, indoor air, tanning facilities, migrant farm worker housing is one of our specialties now, ATUPA, weights and measures, health promotion, education, injury prevention, disease control prevention, disease investigation, immunization, which is one of our staples now with the Hep A outbreak in Oneida, STI screening, TB screening, maternal and child health, public health research, and public health planning. So, Eric, I want to thank you for that. And it's all in good spirits, and I in no way meant to slight at the public health department when I said that, in the summertime we do restaurants and mosquitoes mostly. That was just me talking to that reporter, but we certainly appreciate all you do and all of our employees in Madison County. So thanks again, Eric. Okay. Yep.
Resolution number 2 on the agenda, allocating the 2020 Madison County Medical Examiner Coroner's Office salary for 2 deputy coroners. Mary Kavanaugh, Chairwoman, Government Operations Committee.
Resolution has been made. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Cunningham. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
One abstention.
One abstention, carried.
1,344 ayes.
Carried.
Now we go to our preferred agenda. Resolution number 3, establishing the standard workday and reporting days for certain county officials. Number 4, reallocating certain titles in the IT department. Number 5, authorizing enterprise agreement with Sedera. Number 6, authorizing pilot agreement with NextAmp. Number 7, acknowledging the introduction of proposed local law number 5 for 2020 and calling for a public hearing, and this is residency. Where am I? Number
6.
8.
Okay.
Resolution number 8, acknowledging introduction of proposed local law number 6 of 2020 and calling for a public hearing for overriding the tax levy limit. Number 9 is pulled at this time. Number 10, acknowledging introduction of proposed local law number 8 of 2020 and calling for a public hearing on additional surcharge for 911 wireless communications. Number 11 is pulled at this time. Number 12, maintaining the increase in the rate of taxes on sales and uses of tangible personal property and certain services of occupancy of hotel rooms and on amusement charges pursuant to tax law. Number 13, indicating certain intent and directing Madison County Department of Law to issue certain notice to Community Power Group. Number 14, authorizing agreement, Town of Hamilton for tax collection. Number 15, authorizing chairman to execute an application for FEMA funding due to COVID-19. Number 16, authorizing modification of the 2020 adopted budget for budget cuts for departments. Number 17, authorizing the modification of the 2020 adopted budget bundle resolutions 1 through 3. Number 18, authorizing to contract Madison County Soil and Water Conservation District for maintenance of the drainage network for Quasalon Creek Watershed District. Number 19, authorizing agreement with New York State Board of Elections in regards to elections, cybersecurity remediation grant program and modifying the budget. Number 20, supporting A 6215 and S 5459 to amend the vehicle and traffic law in relation to accessible parking space requirements for persons with disabilities and enforcement of illegal parking. Number 21, authorizing agreement with National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. 22, authorizing agreement Oneida Healthcare Center. 23, authorizing agreement Dew Flow Spray Chemical Inc. 24, authorizing chairman to amend an agreement with Northwoods Consulting Partners. 26, authorizing agreement with Bridges and Madison County Council on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse and modifying the budget. 26, authorizing agreement with Chittenango Landing Canal Boat Museum and modifying the budget. 27, renewing an agreement with Madison Cortland ARC. Number 28, renewing an agreement with Family Support in Central New York. Number 29, authorizing a contract New York State Department of Transportation for CARES Act 2020 funding assistance. Number 30, authorizing agreement information verification services for polygraph services. Number 31, authorizing agreement with Public Safety Psychology. Number 32, authorizing renewal agreement with Automon. 33, authorizing renewal agreement with UMR. 34, authorizing the modification of the county budget for the Indigent Legal Services Grant. 35, renewing agreement with General Security. 36, renewing agreement with JoJo Electric. 37, authorizing agreement with Dolomite Products and authorizing approval of award to all bidders. And just need to do that first.
Mhm. You want to take a break before we do that?
Well, we can vote on this now. We have to vote on this group now.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering if you want to take a breath before
I
we
need
made
to.
you add up everything. Okay, who is moving this? We gotta have a motion.
It can be anybody. They're all different.
Okay, I need a motion by Mr. Moses, second by Ms. Schwartz. Is there any discussion? Does anybody want to pull one of these out to vote on it separate or anything? No? Okay, with that, we'll have our vote, please. Roll call.
Roberts. Maglioka, Ostrander.
Joe's left us, Joe left
Ostrander.
us, okay.
Oh, Corbin, Zupan, Lawrence, Moses, Jones,
Aye.
Walrod, Schwartz, Goldstein,
Yes,
DeVronica, Norelli, Bono, Cunningham, Stokes. He's gone.
Is he gone or is he still? I thought he was on. He said he was on. Yeah. Okay.
Tim, are you on?
Argent or
Tom,
TJ, yeah.
so he's absent. Becker,
Yes.
Kavanaugh. Okay. No. Wait a minute.
2,700. Hey, we're.
Wait a minute. Okay, I got
Yeah, he said yeah.
1373 ayes.
Carried.
I added something I shouldn't have.
Okay. Now we got
Okay.
2 more left.
Now we go to resolutions for the regular agenda. Let me just get to that number. Authorize the chairman to enter into an agreement with Quadrant Biosciences. That would be, who's vice chairman? Jim Goldstein, vice chairman, Health and Human Services Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I move that resolution for adoption.
Resolution has been made. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Cunningham. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 39, amending resolution number 73 of 1981 regarding the imposition of sales and compensating use tax pursuant to Articles 28 and 29 of tax law of the state of New York. Yvonne Norelli, Chairwoman, Finance, Ways and Means.
Resolution has been made. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Roberts. Is there any discussion? Yep, Mark? Cindy, okay.
This is discussion regarding the sales and use tax. Is
Yes,
that correct?
on energy, correct?
Energy.
The residential energy. So from what I understand, that some years ago, I believe 1981, the county actually repealed, or no, added an exemption for residential energy sales, the sales tax that was applied to that. This is something that we have seen some other counties do, specifically Onondaga County recently has moved to add, the sales tax to residential energy sales. In our case, we're actually repealing an exemption if folks decide to move on that. And so what that is it is a sales and use tax, so it would be 4% as it is for any other sales here in the county. In the city of Oneida, they already collect the sales tax on residential energy sales. So in the city of Oneida, those residents would see an increase of 2%. And so I'm not sure how familiar folks are or aren't, but so basically if you receive your National Grid bill or your NYSEG bill, those kinds of things, this would be a 4% sales tax onto that bill. And that would go, it would be remitted to New York State from those vendors, just as any other sales tax vendor does. And then the state would distribute that back to the county for further distribution based on the formula that we have now for any other type of sales tax. And the same, with the city of Oneida, they would keep their 2% as they already do now, and the county would receive the other 2%. Using some just rough estimates based on the estimated number of households in the county, and estimating an energy bill of about $150 per month. That would be about $6 per household per month outside the city of Oneida and $3 per household per month inside the city. So if you annualize that, that would come out to a little over $2 million, and applying the formula that we do for all sales tax, that would result in a net back to Madison County of about $1.1 million in a year's time. And there would be, of that, about 966,000 that would be distributed to the towns and villages, along with their usual sales tax distribution formula.
Cindy, is the state currently collecting sales tax? State themselves on the-
They do not. I don't think they do anywhere.
Cindy, as we found when we looked at this, a lot of counties in New York State are utilizing it.
Yeah, there are quite a few other municipalities that already do, that collect this tax, and our county even did at one time. What's before you today is set up to expire in a 3-year period, the same as our 1% extension would. It would be at that same time period. And then if we weren't faced with some of the financial challenges that we have now, that's certainly something that we wouldn't have to continue with. The reason that it's being brought up here now is because there are a lot of unknowns about our immediate and longer term financial situation. We don't know if we'll receive any federal stimulus money, if any of those funds will go to the state or directly to local governments. That's still a question. The state aid that we receive, a lot of that is still unknown right now as to what we will receive, the timing of those receipts, how deep those cuts might be. So right now, if I look today at what is budgeted in state aid, and I don't include the $3.5 million that is budgeted from the settlement agreement, if I took 20% right across the board of that, it's just about a $4 million hit for us for the year. So, that's a big number. If that's what it is, if they're going to hit 20%, and they may not necessarily do it across the board, but in the general fund, we have in the budget over $15 million in state aid. For highway, for the CHIPS funding is $3-point-something million. That's very likely to be subject entirely to that reduction. The $3.5 million from the settlement agreement that is budgeted, I don't know if we'll receive that or part of that, or how that will work. We generally receive it in May. We have yet to receive it this year. And the county keeps most of that and has been distributing, it would be about $308,000 that goes out to the municipalities. So the county does keep most of that. So if we didn't receive that, that alone would be a big hit. And we've been receiving that since 2014. The host community benefit also, we don't know, haven't received it yet. That is not in our budget, and we do share 1.4 million of that approximately with the towns and villages. So the net to the county isn't as big. A concern about the state aid cuts is that it may not just be 20% this year, 20% next year, that once something is cut, that very well may continue into future years. So there's a lot of focus on right now, as there should be, but also looking to the future, we don't know what might happen there. The sales tax numbers that have been shared with you, and even more recently than when I just updated the finance committee at our last meeting, we had some positive news there. Even with that, though, if I'm projecting that we fall under budget by about $1.5 million net to the county, and some folks might think, you know, how is that if we're only down about 2% for the year? But the first quarter, we performed very well. We were ahead of budget by about 12%. And then if you look at the second quarter as a whole, we were down 17% compared to last year. If you back out, there was a $307,000 prior period adjustment that was positive for us in the second quarter that I wouldn't expect to have happen again. So if you back that out, that's a decrease of 17%. The third quarter is typically the highest sales tax revenue quarter that we get. And I do have concerns that with so many things are canceled that normally, you know, generate revenue for us, and those things aren't happening. Gas prices are still very low. Malls are opening in our neighboring counties, so folks that maybe had been ordering online are physically now going to Destiny or Sangertown or what have you. The unemployment, as I understand it, the additional is going to be gone. We don't know about, you know, the next round of stimulus money. Yes, restaurants are open, but there's still some limited seating. So a lot of question marks. So, you know, I'm just trying to do what I can to try and project out what might happen. So that would be $1.5 million not received this year. And then we know we would have to adjust the budget for 2021 as well. And one of the things that we have done historically is, you know, we try and be conservative with the sales tax number. So, you know, in my mind, okay, we budgeted $30 million in sales tax. If we don't exceed that, that's a problem already. And I'm saying, you know, we're probably going to fall short of budget there as it is. So certainly, you know, some steps are being taken now. There was a resolution just approved to cut the budget by $1.1 million. There's currently a hiring freeze resulting in a number of position vacancies across departments. And departments are helping me put together a budget transfer to reflect savings from that for a future meeting. We did receive the FMEP money from down through the state so that our weekly Medicaid share has been decreased and will be for the rest of this year. There'll be a budget modification for next month's meeting. That's a help to us at $736,000. There's still some money in the contingent fund that we can use, but you know, we're starting now on next year's budget and a lot of concern about what we're going to do. As far as the tax levy limit for next year, that tax cap estimate is $728,000 or about 1.8%. Just so you're aware, if we exceed the tax cap for next year, we won't receive the state aid on raise the age, and that I have estimated about $800,000. So that if we override the tax cap, add about $800,000 onto that we would need to raise additionally. So that's a problem. So kind of back to the sales and use tax on the residential energy. That's kind of why we're asking folks to look at that. Certainly no one wants to add a tax. But the question is, you know, if we don't generate revenue in some other way, you know, what will we do without making really deep cuts? In the budget, what we have been doing is a lot of the one-time projects and expenditures that we've been setting aside and funding with one-time money like the host community benefit that we've received. So there's not necessarily a lot of anticipated requests for equipment or projects or things of that nature in next year's budget to cut. Mark calls me the dark cloud and or the wet blanket. So I'm just here fulfilling that.
Lauren, did that answer your question?
Let's see. That would be a great question for Jeff Amel.
What, Jeff?
Is a vendor then, say a person that sells fuel oil, comes, delivers 200 gallons, he's gonna have to put a tax on that bill to the resident, it says 4% of the total, and add that 4% on, and then he's responsible spending 4%.
Correct.
County.
To New York State. Mhm.
You're not doing it for this is a new process for a lot of things.
If they're vendors who are only serving Madison County outside the city, it would be new. Let's see. Just trying to look through some of the other counties that do impose it now. Allegheny, Cattaraugus, Cayuga County, Chemung County, City of Norwich also in Chemung, Portland County, Franklin County, a lot of school districts, Orleans, Rockland, Schenectady, Suffolk, Tioga, Tompkins, Westchester. I don't think so. They just started, yeah. Oneida County, has not effective December 1st, 2019. If they have done an action since then, I'm not aware of it. Yeah, the term residential energy sources and services means the following tangible personal property and services used for residential purposes: natural gas, propane sold in containers of 100 pounds or more, electricity, steam, gas, electric, and steam services, fuel oil, except diesel motor fuel, coal, and wood for heating purposes only.
Anybody else have anything?
Yeah. It seems to me with, certainly school taxes are gonna go up quite a bit this year probably. County, local taxes are probably going up. Even though this is upwards to maybe $1 million, I'm not sure it's the greatest PR thing we want to put out there, that we're also throwing another on the people as well. So I'm hesitant about voting yes on that for that reason.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Zupan.
I was just wondering if it was possible to table this for a month.
You can table it if you'd like.
Yep, just so you're aware, if it is held off, though, it would, Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, but would affect when it could begin. So Jeff, because this is part of now the sales tax resolution.
So we could vote on this in August, though. For September 1st.
No.
It's a waiting period.
By implementing this resolution, my understanding was when this came to committee, this doesn't mean we have to impose this. It's just giving us the ability.
Right. Well, if you okay it, it's that we're doing it. We're doing it. Right.
Yeah, I think when we met in committee, I believe there was the thought that it needed to be a local law. And it turned out to not be the case. It was just by resolution. Yeah.
So if we okay it today, when's it go into effect? December 1st? September 1st. Okay, and if we wait, then it's December.
It's really about how do we fill the hole that we're anticipating next year. Right, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One's
I
in
mean,
Albany.
I'm just,
It's called a black hole. Things go there and never come back. And they steal from you. And that's a quote from me.
I mean, there are a lot of things that we don't know how much more will we know next month? Maybe not a whole lot, but
Federal aid, we might have an
it's
idea.
possible.
They're hoping end of July for federal aid decision, so, for the August board meeting, we might have a sense. So we can hold off and wait.
Whatever you want to do, Bill. If you can make a motion to table. Does anybody want to second it? Seconded by Mitch Schwartz, it's tabled.
Bad idea.
Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
That's the way we've done tables forever.
We have a special meeting.
I know we have a special meeting coming up. I'm wondering if the people it now does it come up with a special meeting.
It will.
It does.
It
So
does.
when's your special meeting?
28th, July.
Okay, so be ready to vote on it the 28th. Vote, talk amongst yourselves. Yep,
Yes.
which will make it effective when? Okay, so there you go. Yeah, you can rescind it, right. But this is it's gonna come up because you have to bring it up at the next scheduled meeting of the board, so, yep. Maybe the governor will have a new watercolor for us and not put local governments on, his nice PowerPoints that, we've carried the water forever for him and it's all about him, so. Now, 20% is the floor, for the cut on local aid. We talked about it on one of our, control room, talks that we've had, and 20% will be the floor. It could be more than that, so.
She said it was about 4 million. Yeah.
We've got enough, we got enough with fund balance and everything else we could get through this year and part of next year, but then we will be completely broke, if we don't keep up to what we've, anticipated to come in. Albany's absolutely no help. We're relying on the feds now, to help plug this gap, so I don't know if they're gonna be able to come through or not. As we've talked about, the nation money, the $3.5 million is guaranteed in the contract that we signed in 2014, but that is only if there is $1 raised for and remitted to the state on gaming, which is the slot money. And as of right now, I don't believe that the nation has remitted any money to the state yet. So we've got our hand waiting for the 3.5. Hopefully, it'll come through, but there's not much positive about any of it, so. What else we got? We got committee as a
Discussion.
whole.
Eric can give an update on COVID and we can talk about
Do
enforcement.
you want to adjourn before we do committee as a whole?
No, if you have to.
Just wanna let them know that we're gonna be holding a special
Okay.
meeting, and I'll be sending out the
Yep.
notice.
Okay, yep.
If they wanna have a meeting before, discuss this table.
Okay, yep. All right, now, our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, July 28th, starting at 9 AM, 2020. Do you want to get, it's for adopting local law number 8 for the year 2020, a local law amending local law 3 for 2017 and imposing an additional wireless communication surcharge to pay the costs of operating and maintaining the enhanced 911 system in Madison County.
Because it's time sensitive, we
Yep,
have to
and
hold this
we've been
meeting.
waiting on this for quite some
We've done
time.
this one like 3 times. The state keeps changing the rules on us, so we have to do it again.
It's political. It's political.
No, just the wireless communications.
Because didn't they tell us how to do this and we did it to a T and then all of a sudden
Yeah,
it came
then
back?
tax,
Yeah.
then tax and finance
Yeah.
called and said you got to do it a different way.
So, yeah, by me knocking the governor, don't be surprised we don't get our $3.5 million. So, this is a game that they play down there. They keep score. So, Tuesday, July 28th is the meeting at 9 AM. Do you want to make it sooner to have a discussion? Or you just want to come at 9 and have the discussion and then we'll move along? Is that okay with everybody? Okay, all right. So that's when we'll do it. We need a motion to have this meeting, right? Or we're all set? Okay, we're good. Okay.
I'll be sending out a notice.
Okay, we'll have committee as a whole. Eric, you want to come on up?
He can sit in Joe's seat. And,
Okay.
and
Come on
mic
up,
up.
Eric.
Why don't you come sit in Joe's seat? Since he's not here, you can mic up.
10:30. Solid waste.
All right, good afternoon. Go ahead.
What am I doing?
Oh, camera's on there.
Oh, no, we're in regular session.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. We're
Okay,
good.
go ahead, Eric.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Just kind of give you an update on numbers. Right now, we actually have only 2 active cases in Madison County, in the entire county. That's the lowest we've had since our first case on March 22nd. Where they are right now, the lucky winners right now are the town of Sullivan and Casanova. But
I just keep hearing kids own.
So, but right now, other than that, we're dealing a lot now with the travel advisories where people are having to quarantine because of travel. So that's kind of the current thing. We kind of as a sidebar on top of the pandemic, we also had to deal with a hepatitis A incident where we had an employee at the Taco Bell in Oneida was positive for hepatitis A. So the last 4 days, my staff have been running vaccination clinics out of the Oneida High School. And we vaccinated, I think, just over 400 individuals for Hep A. So we just completed that today, this morning. So approximately 400, I'll give you exact numbers, but it was approximately about 400. I don't have the total numbers yet. Right now, and then this afternoon before I came here, just as an update, we have a weekly call with the colleges and universities to discuss their plans for reopening in the fall. I think the colleges are in really good shape in terms of their planning. Implementation is going to be the question and the challenge, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. But we'll continue to work with them and on guidance as well as everything. The school guidance for public schools just came out today. It's about a 22-page document that we're trying to translate and interpret. We'll hopefully start working with the school districts to have discussions about that. You also approved a resolution this afternoon regarding the quadrant biosciences, just to give you a brief background on that. Wastewater effluent has been used to test for various diseases for years. This is not a new concept, but so it's not surprising that they're able to find coronavirus in the wastewater. And so we've are partnering with Supervisor Cunningham and his business, and for the town of Casanova, and then for SUNY Morrisville. And Colgate's also looking to do this as well for testing the wastewater effluent in those 3 communities for the next 12 weeks. We actually started testing. We're starting testing today. And the purpose is, it's been identified in the research that the coronavirus can be detected in the wastewater about 7 days prior to cases occurring in that community. So kind of like an early warning detection system. So with colleges coming back in the fall, that's going to be our #1 priority or concern for COVID, at least in our community. So hopefully we'll have these early warning detection systems, if you will, set up so we can monitor that. So it's kind of exciting on one hand, I guess, talking about wastewater, but on the other hand, it'll probably be one of the first times we'll have a chance to try to get ahead of this thing. So we're kind of excited about that. So
You
that's
guys
kind of
will
what
be
that's about.
#1 and the #2 business.
Yeah, we're black gold, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
That's kind of what we're working on right now.
Eric, are all of the sewer plants going to participate, or are we just going to target the ones in the college areas?
Right now we're just targeting the ones in the college towns.
Okay.
Just because that's our kind of our focus areas, but
Right.
we can bring them more on later. I mean, the challenge is I had some COVID funding, grant funding that I'm able to support the testing in those 2. But if future plants want to come on, they're going to have to find the funding themselves, or we get another.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Evan?
I know the state requires them to have a shutdown plan. We have not discussed the specifics of that. We're hoping that they'll share the plans with us. They do intend, from my understanding in our conversations with them, they do intend making the plans public on their website, so everyone could be able to see them as well. But that's not, right now the focus has been on the testing, isolation, and quarantine, and how to handle students and faculty. We haven't gotten to the trigger yet. We haven't got to that point of the school process yet. We're still on getting them into the school.
So there's no procedure as to whether you detect coronavirus.
Well, if it gives us a 7-day lead time, we can start doing some extra targeted education awareness activities in those communities, and hopefully try to nip it in the bud, if you will, before it gets started. It's new to us, so we'll kind of build this plane as we fly it with that regard. So, but it's encouraging to try to get a heads up on it. We're usually responding, instead of 7 days prior, we're usually responding 7 days after a positive test. So this is encouraging for us.
You could theoretically get enough test out.
Well, each college is doing the testing differently. Colgate is going to test all their students. They're also proposing to quarantine all of them initially. So we'll see how all that works. That hasn't been approved yet by the college, but exactly, like I said, on plans, their plans from what we've been discussing have looked really good. They're addressing all the issues. The implementation is going to be where the rubber hits the road, if you will.
Any other questions for Eric?
I'll talk about enforcement.
Oh, right.
Enforcement.
Yeah, we can talk about enforcement. Yes, sir. Mr. Court. Rabies clinic.
I'll have to check. I know we had them
I think we do.
pre-scheduled for the year. I know we changed things around, but I believe we still do.
Sam, isn't that on one of my sheets here to talk about? Don't we have a rabies clinic? No. Okay, you want to talk about enforcement, Eric, or you want me to talk
Well,
about?
I guess the question is, and that's in addition to the travel advisory, one of our newest kind of focus and attention has been on complaints and enforcing the mask and the social distancing requirements. That's been kind of a challenge because we looked at other counties and how they were doing, and it's kind of a hodgepodge of every county's kind of doing it their own way and differently. So one of the things we were hoping to do is get some guidance from this board in terms of how compliance should be handled, or they want it to be handled in Madison County. What we've done so far is basically most compliance is if not all compliance is complaint driven, where people will contact us and saying so-and-so wasn't wearing a mask at such and such a place. I mean, the complaints are helpful. It helps us to identify a particular business or site. And then we will, initially we divide it up in one of three ways. If it was an entity that my department kind of regulated, like restaurants or food service organizations, my staff would go out and follow up on it. If it was a entity like a grocery store or convenience store, which is regulated by the state egg and markets, the complaint would be directed to them. And then pretty much everything else was kind of directed to the sheriff's office. I think going forward, I think we're looking at a much cleaner, simpler way of doing it. But in essence, what happens is we get a complaint, we follow up, we contact the place to let them know that we received a complaint and provide them education. And sometimes we'll actually go out and make a visit. At least if we get a second complaint, we actually go out and make a visit, and we need to observe it in order for us to make sure it's a legitimate complaint, because we do have had experience with individuals just complaining about a place just because they don't like the person or the place, and so it has to be a legitimate, observable violation, if you will. So, like I said, for the facilities that my office regulates, we have a mechanism, a process for doing that, but we don't have it for the businesses that we typically don't regulate. So I don't know if Mark wants to chime in at this point, but we did reach out to other counties and
Yeah, and like other counties using their county attorney's office to do a process where they investigate, they see if there's a complaint, and they go out and they look at it. And to Eric's point, if they notice that folks aren't wearing masks, then they'll go ahead and they'll cite and find those businesses. The complaints we're getting, it's not so much, we're getting a lot of complaints about the individuals, but that's kind of hard to track down. Where we're having the big issues is with businesses that are openly kind of flouting the law, the rules there, with their employees not wearing masks. And we've had, some businesses in Madison County that are repeat offenders. I get the emails along with RJ, and we share them, with Eric, but we got a few businesses in the county that just have seemed to ignore it from an employee perspective. So that's kind of troubling. Like I said, it's really hard with the individual, patrons and stuff coming in and out, because, by the time they've come and gone with the not wearing the masks, it's hard to enforce that. But if the employees are working a shift in a hardware store in a town not wearing masks,
Right.
that's an issue, because if they're going an 8-hour shift and nobody in the hardware store is wearing a mask, we're getting all these complaints. I think, we need to look at, potentially citations and fines, but we want to make sure that we're not stepping out of bounds. We want to make sure that there's support from the board to do that. And so Eric and I kind of talked to the chairman about maybe a 3-strike approach, and then, and finding some, business if their employees are not wearing the mask. But we want to hear what folks on the board think.
So
What is the rule? Mask and social distancing? Or mask or social distancing?
it's a combination of both. The businesses are required to have masks and social distance to protect their workers from each other, but also, especially if those businesses interact with the public, those employees that interact directly with the public, like you see in food service and stuff like that, they are required to wear a mask. So, and some of the issues we've had where the cashier or wherever of that particular store is not wearing a mask when someone comes up, that's an issue. But people, it's also a challenge too, because there are some people that may be working in a store, but you can see them, but they're like behind the counter and they're not interacting with the public. If long as they're 6 feet away, they don't have to wear a mask. Right, so they don't have to wear a mask. So we have to tease that all out when we do this follow-up and investigation. Plus, there are individuals that can't wear masks due to underlying health conditions. So all that stuff has to be taken into consideration when we do our investigation. So we just don't go by a complaint. We have to actually do follow-up. So it does take some time.
So to give some latitude to Eric and his group over there, the first strike, you'll get a phone call or a visit. Second strike, you'll get a letter on education and proper protocols. And then the third strike, you'll get a fine probably. So that's absolutely. With the second strike, you'll, with the first strike, you could get notified that there could be a fine. This is the procedure, you know, you need to do this. Second strike, it's all in writing. And then the third time is when you give them a hit.
I think that's fair, Mr. Chairman. I think that's reasonable.
Lauren just asked, who sets the fine?
I believe the fine is set, I think, as a maximum of $2,000 by, I think it was $2,000 by the state. It's executive order
Like
from the
everything else.
governor's office, I believe is up to $2,000. Well, that's part of the question. Who sets that fine?
Does that person, in front of a local judge or county attorney?
In Onondaga County, the example I saw was a citation issued by their county attorney. It was a fine of $1,000 for a repeat offending business that their employees were not wearing masks.
And I have no idea what you do if they don't pay.
Or get fined out, huh? Now, the way I understand it too, in Onondaga County, they've only done it 2 or 3 times.
They've had a few.
There's been,
just
they're
started.
really bad repeat offenders in order to put the hammer on, so.
I think
That's
we
an
retain
excellent
it.
question too.
I believe that we retain.
It's
the
100%.
fine.
We
100%.
keep all of our
We keep
fines.
it all.
Yeah. At least from the
I mean,
fines.
it's
that
not a money-making
At least,
opportunity.
yeah, at least the fines in my department.
We won't balance the budget on fines, but yeah, it's gonna be very profitable. But it's more about sending the message. The concern I see when you see the same business, I'd like to just mention their name right now, but when you see the same business over and over and over again, it irritates me just even personally, just like follow the rules. A few of our businesses have run out their 3 strikes and then some.
Well, again, too, and it goes to the people calling in, you know, tattletales that, you know, if you're not comfortable, don't go there. Don't put yourself in, that situation. That's all. You know, we gotta go.
The first time that you go out and see it, you look over there, and you see that it's a violation. Notify them, send them a letter, and say they have to pay the fine.
Correct.
And give them the opportunity to talk to their employees about it.
Correct. Yeah. We try to educate first because, you know, we could have, just like in every instance where we go in to inspect, you know, Murphy's Law takes over and it's just that the time that we walk in, that's the one time that they had their mask down. And so we understand that. So, but if we go in and there's no one with masks on or even a mask remotely close to them, they're obviously not doing it. But the first time we'd want to talk to them, educate them. We also can provide them a letter that spells out, you know, and remind them in writing of the requirements as well as the potential for fines. And then, you know, the next time we could go in and it was just that we didn't have a mechanism for businesses that we don't regulate. We have a process for food services, but it's not the same. And we just want to make sure everything's consistent.
Well, the 3 strikes is probably fine. Maybe there should be something in writing.
Right.
Well, it's been different too. For example, my office, we we contact them and we try to go out and make a visit. I can't speak for the sheriff. When they get a
Sheriffs will go out
complaint,
visiting, they're logging
Yep.
all
And
of the
then-
complaints.
and then for like the convenience stores and supermarkets, which would be Walmart, those go to Department of Ag and Markets. And in speaking with them at the state, they said the first complaint, they make a phone call and educate. The second complaint, they make a phone call and educate. And the third complaint, they refer it to the sheriffs. That's how the state handles it. So we want a consistent process that's applied across the board. Well, that's part of this challenge with enforcement. It's not consistent across all venues. So we would like to see something in place that's consistent and equitable across all.
It's the state's rule. They ought to send the troopers out, not bother the local sheriff.
Well, Eric, my understanding is that the biggest problem is stores that have signs up, you have to wear a mask, and the employees see violators, but they're under instructions by their management to not ask people to leave if they come in without a mask. So how do we encourage people? Because if someone walks in without a shirt or shoes, I don't think anyone has any problem asking them to leave. So how do we get people to simply speak up so that people that put their mask on are asked without? I'm thinking of stores that everyone goes into, like grocery stores and places like that.
Jim, it's pretty tough. In Chignago last week, we had 2 young ladies in an ice cream place, and they refused to serve somebody that didn't have a mask on, and they were all over Facebook getting persecuted along with.
Well, I know that's the
establishment.
I have.
It's ridiculous in today's society. It's going to go back to the park, the personal responsibility. You're responsible to wear one. Wear one if you don't want to, stay home. That's all.
Yeah, apparently Jim, there is on the control room call the other day, this has been raised in multiple control rooms. And apparently there is guidance coming from the state on the big box stores that are refusing to enforce. Apparently, it looks like the state might be dropping the hammer potentially. So they've been talking about it for the past few days. I haven't seen anything yet, but they're aware of it. And the guy leading the call said that the state is developing guidelines for enforcement of big box stores that are refusing to, enforce a mask
As
situation.
they say,
So-
they're running it up the flagpole. There's so much at the top of the flagpole, it's ready to bend over. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Yeah.
Jim, we'll continue to educate and push the message out. Again, stores don't have to force anyone that comes in to wear a mask. We've encouraged them. If you recall from real early on in one of our press conferences, I made a comment that I don't think people liked, that the store shouldn't let them in without a mask, but
I agree. I agree with you.
it's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an honor system for the resident.
I agree.
Who wants to get into a confrontation with an angry customer, and
Well, but
find your establishment on Facebook with a bunch of Facebook crap?
I agree with you, but John, how many years have we seen those signs up? If you don't have a shirt or you don't have a
Right. No shoes, no
Hey.
shirt, no service.
Yeah. And those are enforced pretty rigorously when I've seen people violate them. So
I can tell you at Walmart, if you see somebody shoplifting, tell the employees, let them go. So, because they don't want a confrontation or a fight or something.
Yeah,
They're
well.
gonna get injured. So at this point, I'm gonna be
Hold on, Ron.
talking more about.
Hold on, Ron. Let Matt finish and I'll get you, Ron.
I think, yeah, I think it's gonna be enforcement and then, is this really a law or you go to jail?
It's an executive order, like everything, it's
So my
ridiculous.
concern is that we're gonna be going through all of this. If Lowe's refuses to pay a $2,000 fine to Thomas Sullivan or Joe Schmo's Pizza Shack, what are we gonna do?
Right.
There's nothing we can do. That's my concern.
There's probably something we can do. I just haven't figured out what.
Yeah, we're gonna spend $5,000 worth of everybody's time in having a fire alarm for a $2,000 fine that they'll fight and wind up getting out of or something on a technicality. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big
yeah.
one.
that's nuts. Yeah.
And we can ask the establishment owner, look, you got to try to enforce that mask rule the best you can with your customers. We understand the confrontation thing and the Facebook thing, but you got to try the best you can.
I think it's the minority. You go into Lowe's, I've been in Lowe's numerous times. I've seen a couple people without masks.
Yeah, not too many.
Maybe they forgot it or they didn't think.
Or they can have a medical condition too.
In the medical.
Yeah.
condition.
Right. Ron,
I was just saying the same thing. I think what we're discussing here is the employees.
Right.
That's what we
Yep.
wanted.
Yep.
The other we could talk about forever, but.
Right. Yep. Okay,
Okay.
is everybody good with that? With the three?
Giving Eric the authority to.
Give Eric some guidance? Yes, Evan?
I'm just wondering if we need to formalize a policy, I was there, I was 100% what I was exactly, and same with Tina, are we going to impose a fine? For the third strike, and who makes that judgment, is it Eric? And what do we do about the ones that are not within Eric's original purview, but the sheriff's department? Is the third strike, when he goes out there and he's gotten I think we need to clarify it.
I'm comfortable with Eric making that call. Sorry, but.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
I have enough, I think, to make a protocol for us to follow. I'm actually comfortable with my staff going out and making the visits, and aside from the sheriffs. I mean, it was just being able to go to those locations that I don't have authority over. But if the board here says that, you know, Eric, you're the one to do that, to go out and enforce, then we'll make visits to those places and we'll follow this protocol. So I can work with Tina's office to get the protocol down. We're used to charging fines for violations like of food service establishments. We can come up with that. We don't usually charge the full amount the first time. We kind of have a sliding scale for a violation. So, and I guess it depends on how egregious the violation is. We had an individual owner today tell us, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not going to make my employees wear a mask. And I don't care if my customers wear a mask. When that's kind of flaunting it right in your face, we may be a little bit harsher initially, but we're used to developing these sliding scales of fine. So if you give me the permission to do that, we'll set something up and we'll share the protocol with everyone so you know how it's going to be handled.
Okay, good. RJ, you good with that? Okay. All right, good. Anybody else got any questions? Eric, you got anything else? Tina? Tina? You good? Okay. Okay. Dan, did you want to say anything about the FEMA stuff that's running out to anybody or anything on the schools or the towns?
Even if it is, I mean, what's the cost? You got to do the cost benefit analysis of other equipment you can apply to thing on. $400, you're going to do, you'll quadruple that in your time just trying to get money out of it. So keep that in mind, but you do have expenses, especially villages that have fire departments or towns with an ambulance. So things of that nature where you're buying a lot of PPE, a lot of
Yes. Yes, Rocky.
They haven't made a decision yet whether those items will be included in the, we're still waiting on guidance on that. Out of FEMA, obviously, this is a whole new world for FEMA also. This isn't a hurricane, this isn't a tornado went through and specific damages.
They do more than hurricanes and tornadoes. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt you to put the application, they have to apply it.
Evan. Okay, Evan.
Yeah, we're exploring adding a tracing system or got the, air conditioning in there, but it turns out that it's maybe
So, you know, we contacted this guy today, he said, well, if you can find something in regulation that says, you know, you should do it, then good practice. And we're probably like, hey, explore. I don't know, you know, what other people have in their business. I know it's a big concern for my staff, but not, you know, it's something that people are really worried about. And I don't know what we're doing here. What, if I may ask, I was hoping to see John Reed.
We spent $2 million. Oh, that's all
We have
part of the
UV, yeah.
renovation.
We're on but I think it's the MERV 8 we're on. And so they're looking at, could we upgrade to the 11 filters? They got to see if all the new units can handle them. So the Labella is looking at that from a design perspective, if they can handle those filters or not. But we're on an 8 right now, not an 11. But they do have the UV.
Plus the UV. Yep.
We have the UV, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you've heard, but you probably have, that we closed Delphi Falls Park yesterday because of complaints of garbage everywhere. John Bailey decided to make a little surprise visit from Bailey Haskell on Sunday to videotape on his phone and witness a kid climbing the rocks and doing a black flip off into the lower part of the falls. So that did not go over too well. The garbage situation, there's broken glass on the rocks. We have little kids that like to wade into the water. Some of the neighbors tried to slow some of the cars going down through their neighborhood down, which were met by profanities and other things. So we decided that we should shut it down for a week. And when people can be responsible and take personal responsibility for themselves, you wouldn't go into the Adirondack Park for 5 days and leave all your garbage laying around. If you take it into our park, you take it back out and treat it with respect. And that was a gift from a very generous family, Harold Jones and his wife, of $750,000. And I think it's only fitting that we treat that with respect, and we ask people that go in to respect it also and don't disrespect our most prized park and gem here in Madison County. So I did a couple of interviews today. I think it's met pretty well with pretty good receptiveness to the public. It's like I said, it's too bad that 98% of the folks that go to the park are responsible, but it's the 2% that we need to put the finger on and let them know, hey, jumping off the falls and doing backflips is not something that you should be doing. Breaking bottles, doing drugs in the parking lot. That was another one of the complaints, or leaving your garbage laying all over that place, with the beautiful backdrop of the falls, will not be tolerated. So maybe after a week, we'll open up. We plan on opening up Monday, and the patrons will be a little bit more respectful towards that park. Anybody have any questions on that? Yes, Evan. Yeah, the other parks don't have water.
Yeah,
So,
attractive
I got that.
nuisance.
The falls is an attractive nuisance. Yeah. So, yes, Rocky. Yep.
We're getting upwards of 75 to 100 people coming to the falls, from all over the place. So, the water it's been a hot summer and people don't have much to do, with a lot of things being closed. So, this year, more than any year, we're seeing kind of an explosive growth down there at the park. And I think, with that is brought the trash, people leaving the trash, and then people, being daredevils and wanting to do backflips and things like that. And we're concerned. I called Chairman on Monday. I heard from John Bailey over the weekend. We were getting email. I had email in my inbox Monday morning when I got in from a resident of Delphi Falls that was there and was appalled and shared with me pictures of overflowing trash and trash in the parking lot, the sidewalks over there and people, climbing the falls and, we don't want people to get hurt either. That's, jumping off those, it's slippery up there and, somebody can easily get hurt if they're not, doing the right thing. So it's
Joe.
the difference would be somebody waiting and you put their feet in the water versus doing a backflip.
Joe.
Lifeguard on duty around the United Creek down at the Ross, but all of the state forest lands, all of local biking, hiking areas are not overrun, but the crowding is more significant. But what you have are people that have not routinely visited those places. So that's both good and bad. So the bad ones are dropping garbage, but we're getting a lot of eyes and a lot of people. It's unfortunate that we react to
Well, we're hoping that the ones that don't visit often, that are making frequent visits to these, that the ones that do, put their finger on them and tell them, hey, if you're gonna come here, you're gonna respect the place and act accordingly. Otherwise, stay home. So, yep. Anybody got anything else they want to add? So, all right, we'll see everybody on I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Norelli, seconded by Mr. Moses. We're adjourned. So, thank you.
Bye, everybody
Bye.
on Zoom.